important aspect of the consumer protection law is the key terms or definitions which every student needs to know thoroughly. And in this video, I, Dr. Mariam Narona, will be walking you through those definitions. First and very important, let's understand who is a consumer. What do we mean by the term consumer? So, a consumer is anyone who purchases a product or uses a service for consideration. That consideration is price, which he has either paid in full, or he has paid in part, or he has promised to pay in future. So, this person is a consumer. Now, as far as it also includes a beneficiary, that means if a student is studying in a school, obviously he is not paying his own fees, his parents are paying it for him. Or if a child goes to a doctor and he has to pay the doctor's fees, then naturally the parent is going to pay the money, but the child is a beneficiary of it. So consumer is also someone who has not paid the price, but who is the end user, who is a beneficiary of either a product or a service. Having said who is a consumer, we also need to very clearly understand who is not a consumer. So a person is not a consumer if he or she gets any goods for free or utilizes a service for free. You don't pay a consideration, you don't pay a price, you get it for free, then you're not a consumer. And it is also a person who hires a service for a commercial purpose. So you are a contractor who is engaged in the construction industry, and you have laborers who you have hired so that you can do some carpentry work or masonry work. Then you are not a consumer, you are an employer, you are a contractor. Okay. And a consumer also does not include someone who avails a service under a contract of service. So for example, a teacher is employed by a school. That teacher is bound by the contract of service. So there's an employer-employee relationship between the teacher and the school management. It is not that the management is a consumer of the service. So hope that is clear. So who is not a consumer should be very clear to us. Then what do we mean by goods? Because under the Consumer Protection Act, a dispute arises because of defective goods or deficiency in services. So what are goods? Goods means movable property other than actionable claims and money, and it includes stock and shares, growing crops, grass and things attached to or forming part of the land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale. Now this is by and large the definition which we have considered under the Sale of Goods Act also of goods. Now to put it very simply, any product which has bond satisfying ability, which we can touch, feel and see, it has some physical form and it gives us some utility, that is a good. Now a defect always pertains to a good or a product. A defect means any fault, imperfection or shortcoming in the quality, quantity, potency, purity or standard which is required to be maintained by or under any law for time being in force or under any contract express or implied or as is claimed by the trader in any manner whatsoever in relation to any goods. So basically a defect is any flaw. It could be a fault, it could be an imperfection, it could be a shortcoming, it could be damaged goods, it could be you buy a mobile and it is cracked, the screen is broken, or it is not functioning, the battery is not charging, right? Any shortcoming in the quality, quantity, potency, purity, or standard which is required to be maintained. So any defect in quality, that is, usually we have industrial goods which have the ISI mark, we have the AG mark. This assures us of certain quality. Now, if you buy clothes and garments and the color runs, then that is a defect in quality. Quantity, if you asked for 1 kg and you were given 800 grams or 900 grams, this is a defect. Then potency and purity, this potency, it could be the strength of medication, right? We always see 500 mg, 250 mg. So the right potency is important. Purity, that is, when we are talking about food and drinks, we are talking about purity. We need those items to be pure for us to consume them, and any standard which is required to be maintained under law. So obviously any electronic item which you use should not give you a shock. A car should not be defective, right? The brakes should function. So these kind of things. What is a defect? Any flaw in the product which prevents us from safe usage or proper usage, that is a defect. Now, the intangible equivalent of a good or a product is a service. So service is basically, again, something which satisfies our wants. It has want satisfying ability, but it does not have tangibility, or it is partially tangible. So for example, if you're talking about the aviation industry, or you're talking about the hotel industry, it comes under the service sector. But there are certain aspects of that which are tangible and certain are intangible. So how the staff treats you, speaks to you, whether they make you feel good or bad, that is an intangible part of it. But then if you say, as far as an airline goes, what type of an aircraft is it? How is the seating arrangement? What sort of in-flight entertainment is there? How's the food? How was the luggage check-in? All those things. How do they deal with if you lost your baggage? So these things are all tangible. But then other things, how you feel, how they speak to you. So if you request for water, how you're spoken to, or you asked for an aisle seat and that person was rude to you at the counter, then these things make that comprise the intangible part of the service. So service, basically, very simply put, I would say, is an intangible equivalent of a product, and always deficiency is in relation to the service. So by service, under the Consumer Protection Act, we mean service of any description which is made available to potential users and includes, but is not limited to, provision of facilities in connection with banking, finance, insurance, transportation, processing, supply, or electrical or energy board, or lodging, or both, construction, housing, entertainment, amusement. All these things come under service. So I would like you to think about whether you think education comes under a service under the Consumer Protection Act. Please think about that, read up on it, and explore what it entails. As I mentioned, deficiency is always in relation to a service. So what is deficiency? It's basically what we said about defect, but in the context of a service. So any fault or imperfection, shortcoming, or inadequacy in the quality, nature, and manner of performance which is required to be maintained by or under any law for time being in force, or has been undertaken to be performed by a person in pursuance of a contract or otherwise in relation to any service. This is the definition. Now, very simply put, definition means a flaw in service. So that flaw could be, your flight is inordinately delayed, or your baggage was lost and you haven't heard from the airline in 15 days. Or you can say, the food is not good. So these, anything which is lacking, which was promised and should have been delivered, or is an acceptable standard for a service, then that is, and it is not met with, then that is a deficiency. What is an unfair trade practice? Now, an unfair trade practice means a trade practice which uh, is carried out to promote any sale, use, or supply of goods or services, but it is unfair in the sense that it is deceptive, it is misleading. That would be an unfair trade practice. We'll take a look at what examples we can see. So examples of unfair trade practices are all around us. So where the quality or standard or grade promised or acceptable is not delivered in terms of goods or services, where second hand or old goods are sold as new ones, where goods or services do not deliver what the claim has been made at the time of sale, or they do not are not useful for that particular purpose. So a vacuum cleaner which does not clean, for example, or an iron which does not heat up, then goods or services do not have warranty or guarantee as per whatever was claimed. The price of goods or services is misleading. Even when sometimes bargain prices are there, you're promised a price, but when you go to see buy the product or consume the service, it may not be available as it was promised. Then gifts or prizes where they are offered with no intention of providing them, and sale of goods which do not fall within the safety standards which are set up by any competent authority, hoarding or destroying goods with the intention of raising cost of goods so that you can get higher prices, and spurious goods or fake goods, and take the advantage of branding your goods as per reliable brand. You see this a lot in designer bags and all that. So does you'll find a lot of famous designers, their products, their designs are copied in bags and garments and things like that, and other people just siphon them off under their name. Lastly, restrictive trade practices. So restrictive means to impact the either the price or condition of delivery of goods or supply of goods in such a manner that you impose some unjustified costs or restrictions. So delay beyond the agreed period. Supposing you were promised delivery of a car on a certain date, and even 6 months later you haven't got it, it's a restrictive trade practice. Or a trade practice which requires you to buy certain goods as a condition which is precedent to buying or hiring or availing of other goods or services. Then, for example, if you're buying a mobile phone, logic says that it should come with a power adapter. Now if you have to buy that power adapter separately because it is not offered by the company, then it could be interpreted as a restrictive trade practice, because without that adapter, maybe you'll not be able to charge your mobile phone and make use of and take the benefit for which you are buying that particular product. So restrictive trade practices. Next, we'll be taking a look at the 3-tier grievance redressal system under the Consumer Protection Act. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you find the content on this channel useful, please share it with other students. This video has been prepared for third year BCom students of Mercantile Law Business Regulatory Framework, but it is also very useful for class 12 CBSE students who will be studying consumer protection. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to leave constructive comments and feedback. Thank you.